Heavyweights from the energy policy world are gathered in Washington at this hour, all of them discussing what lies ahead for the renewables sector. Today is the annual American Council on Renewable Energy Forum, a day-long event about the current status of renewables and where clean energy is heading. And it seems the clear future will be forged by what happens or does not happen in Copenhagen and in Congress. Clean Sky's Tyler Suiters is here now. So Tyler, quite a different focus from last year's ACORE meeting.
Right, I was there last year, Susan, a much more broad approach in terms of what the speakers and discussion groups were talking about at ACORE last year. They talked about introducing renewable electricity standards, which did occur in both the House and Senate bills in various versions, also introducing climate legislation overall. 12 months later, a much more narrow focus. The 2009 event is specifically discussing passage of a Senate climate bill. That seems to be all that's left now that the Kerry-Boxer bill is out of committee, at least one of them, and is moving forward in potentially a spring vote on the floor of the Senate. ACORE bills itself as a group that's made up of almost 800 companies and institutions, and as this organization says, this team is dedicated to moving renewable energy into the mainstream of America's economy. A broad approach. Yes, that means a U.S. renewable electricity standard. Yes to a U.S. carbon cap. Yes to more federal incentives for development of renewable energy. But there's also a focus here on the international picture, and that means the upcoming Copenhagen conference. One of the keynote speakers today, Carol Browner with the Obama administration. She made very clear what the White House expectations are for the climate talks coming up in a little more than 2 weeks.
What we are hoping will be possible is what's now being referred to as a prompt start accord, that countries will undertake and commit to enforceable domestic actions, that there will be a real demonstration of what each individual company is willing to do, that it will be verifiable, that it will be transparent. We will then spend the course of the next 6 to 12 months finalizing a binding international agreement. Obviously, everyone had hoped that would be possible in December. People have worked very hard, but the Danes and Prime Minister Rasmussen realized back in September when as the talks were going on that was going to be difficult, and I think he very appropriately in a speech in September helped everyone see that there were other opportunities and that we could take advantage of this meeting to take a significant step forward.
Speaking this morning, along with Carol Browner, this man, Senate Energy Chairman Jeff Bingaman. One of the points he touched on, the energy side of the expected comprehensive climate bill, which we should see in the spring of 2010. Also from the public sector, speaking today, the DOE's Kathy Zoy and David Sandilow, FERC Chairman John Wellinghoff, and leaders from the private industry as well. This man, Google's Dan Riker, back for the second straight year. Also the leaders of NRG and ITC, representatives from Credit Suisse, Deutsche Bank, Morgan Stanley. Again, as I said, a narrow focus here regarding Senate climate legislation. And the search for 60 votes this week brought up talk of Plan B. That is a cap and trade that would cover only the utilities sector. Well, Carol Browner gave an emphatic no to that approach today. She said, we, the Obama administration, we want an economy-wide program.
We believe that we need comprehensive energy reform, and we believe that means we need an economy-wide program. We think that you will get the most common sense, cost-effective solutions if you have an economy-wide program. It's what the President has said from the beginning. It's what we put in our budget, the first budget that the President sent to Congress. It's what the House effectively has done, and that's what we're going to be working for to the best of our ability in the Senate.
So it seems to say to me, Susan, what Carol Browner's point is that they're getting a little bit of momentum among senators potentially moving toward a cap and trade. So Plan B is out there, but the White House doesn't want to hear about it right now.
Right. The White House wants a comprehensive cap on carbon. Is there momentum elsewhere for this Plan B?
It depends on whom you're asking, I think. Earlier this week, Christy Tezak with R.W. Baird, who's a semi-regular analyst for us here on Clean Skies News as well, sent out a newsletter talking about Plan B, calling it a fallback. She said a far better second option for both Democratic congressional leadership and the Obama administration is the idea of a Plan B. She talked about why. Well, a large sector of U.S. emissions would be covered if we're talking about utilities-only legislation. And also, this would be better covered than regulation, which at least publicly no one wants to see in terms of the administration, anyone in Congress, or the private sector. Now, a contact that I talked with this week who's involved with the Senate discussion says they are going to talk about Plan B. That is, they as in senators and also staff members. taking the lead on this. You can read into that John Kerry, Joe Lieberman, Lindsey Graham, and their staff members. He said we could well see a bill if the current effort fails in the spring, the current effort being working off of Kerry-Boxer and that economy-wide cap and trade. And Susan, the insider tells me here that a utility-only Plan B, in his words, will have real trouble flying if it does come later on.
All right, interesting to hear what the utilities will have to say about that one. Tyler Suiters, thank you.
To say the least, of course.